Last time we talked about heads. Now, this time around, let's talk about drawing the body. I'll show you how to draw a semi-realistic and stylized female body so you can see how I bend the rules effectively. If you want to learn more about realistic proportions, check out this video. I basically want to talk about the difference between realistic and anime proportions for this one, and show you guys the basics so that you could get started drawing any anime body type. The best way to learn about anime proportions is of course to compare it with realistic proportions. And here we have two 3D models so that we could have them side by side and compare. The two main differences, I would say, is the head and the hands. Take a look at the face. In realistic, it's very small. The face takes up a lot less space, when comparatively with anime, it takes up this much space. And when you're drawing the hands, a good indicator of hand size is that usually your palm is able to cover up the entirety of your face. But for anime girls, you know, the hands are really tiny to really add to the cutesy factor. I want to start with something a little bit more realistic, and then I'll start moving down to the more stylized bodies. Remember that anime isn't just one specific style. There's a lot of different styles in anime. There's the one that everybody thinks of, the cutesy one, but also there's anime styles like in, say, Dungeon Meshi, because it's still anime, technically, but it's closer to realism. So if you're ever having trouble like drawing these proportions, it's good to have reference. Whenever I draw bodies of any sort, I just like to divide them by body grouping. Have the ribs here, and then the waist, and the hips. If you're drawing somebody more feminine, you could really exaggerate some features on the hips. For girls, the pelvis is much shorter in height, but also wider. Now, so whenever I draw the pelvis, I like to represent it with a box. And the reason why I draw is because it represents the top of the pelvis, which is the anterior, superior, iliac spine. It's a mouthful, but people usually call it the ascus. So when you draw the legs, there's something called the great trochanter. It's this part of the bone that juts out. That's like the highest point, and it's pretty much like a muscle attachment point. Those two, the great trochanter at the bottom corners, and then the ascus at the top corners, those are some really good landmarks to pay attention to, whether you're drawing a guy or a girl. So depending on how big you draw the thighs, you can actually see part of the butt. It's not just a flat line like this. You can actually see part of the butt. When you're drawing anime, the best way to do it is to not put too much detail. Don't overdo the details like shading the bones or shading the muscles and all that, because sometimes it kind of takes away from the anime aesthetic. Yeah, and the legs, it really depends on how you want to draw your character. And so the way I like to do it, you know, is like two cylinders, and then I like to add space for the calves. And then the arms, usually I like to line it up with the waist, right here. I decide the length based on something I like to call the pocket area. So imagine, right, your pockets are right here, and it's just a good way to estimate where to put the hands, really. Like your hands have to fit in the pocket. And then of course, gotta talk about drawing the chest. The way it connects is there's pecs, pectoral muscles. There. And there. They attach onto the pecs, like that. Usually there is some cleavage. And also, depending on the outfit, this one I'd imagine that the person is wearing a more loose outfit. Then I'm gonna putting on some clothes, like a sports bra. So I would stretch it just like that. When it comes to drawing the waist, so you have the top of the pelvis, the asses, some muscles, and then the great trochanter. So it's kind of like staircase pattern. And I kind of exaggerated the waist actually. So really, that's anime. You just play around with the proportions and see what works. If you want somebody more cutesy, you could make their head bigger, you could draw their hands tinier, or if you want somebody more tough looking, like Horikoshi's characters, you know, heroes, make their hands pretty big and boxy. And when you're drawing the feet, remember the little gap, and then the ankle. So now I'm gonna start drawing her head. I won't stress too much on the details of the face since we did tackle that in the video last time. It's all about knowing realistic proportions and then being able to modify it. Yeah, and so now, I'm going to draw the more stylized one. We can go even further. Yeah, so this time around, you can see that I'm going for like a bigger, wider head, just to make it more kind of like chibi, I guess. It'd be kind of funny to put it side by side with this character, the red-haired character. Just like before, I draw the torso first. And I want to give her like longer legs. So you can see that the bigger on the thighs, and then it tapers towards the ankle. So giving her longer legs really is just a personal thing you could do. I think this time I just want to draw a face first. Her eyebrows, and then her nose. And then, actually I could start drawing the hair now. Yeah, honestly, drawing the hair is one of my favorite parts. And always remember to draw all of the important details before you start working on like the face or the clothing. Videos like these wouldn't be possible without our awesome patrons and YouTube members who help our mission of making arts education free and accessible for everyone. Become a member today and unlock cool perks like exclusive chats with our creators, access to class recordings, and critiques from instructors. Sometimes I see like really long necks. Like it's kind of distracting, but you don't notice it. So maybe I'll do that too. Yeah, I'll use Ina as like a comparison here. So yeah, you can see that her character, right, has the proportions we talked about. You know, small hands, you know, big head. But if you look closely at the neck as well, you can see how long her neck is. But it's not very obvious. Mine is like more or less the same length. Yeah, so for small chested characters, it's much easier to draw because you don't have to like estimate it. Much easier. But then this one, I think it is important if they have a big chest. Unless it's like a really tight outfit, the chests would never be up here. Or back in the Victorian era, they did have those like corsets that did. So unless they're wearing that, it would never be super high. You know, just remember the underwear shape again. Muscles, and then the great trochanter in the leg. That's kind of like the pattern. I'll give like a different outfit. It's really funny to put them side by side actually. This like anime like proportions versus realistic. There you go. Goes to show. Kinda looks like they're from different shows. Yeah, because honestly, drawing head-on, straight-facing characters is pretty difficult to keep the balance. But then this one, you know, nothing too unique. You know, you just draw the hands. And yeah, here you can see how tiny her hands could be. And yeah, you can see that I like to draw the thumb first because it's a pretty important, pretty unique finger. Yeah, so the way I drew the knees, they're kind of like inward, kind of like facing in. Then the ankles. So for the feet, so just imagine two triangles. One taller, one smaller. Follow it along, and then just kind of picture it in like a 3D set. So I could also adjust the waist a little. Then I'm gonna start adding in these. And add in the base to everything. Because this is how I like to work. Make it simpler for me by using clipping layers. This is going to be our main layer. We could easily just change around. Yeah, it's important to have the base colors first because before you even add the shadow, it's good to have default color. And then I'm gonna add a clipping layer, just so I could add the base colors. And also, this is why I do this method of making a main layer, because now, look, if I just have to erase something, I don't have to go to each and every layer, I just have to erase one layer. Or easily just add it back in. Like that. So now I'm gonna color other character. All of these characters, I was thinking was like more or less the same age. Yeah, it goes to show some art styles just make people look younger or older. If it's more realistic, it's easier to tell the age. And usually in anime, they just add like a line to represent like an eye bag or like a wrinkle. I'll start with this other character first. I like to add a multiply layer. when you're shading, you don't have to, like, for example, shade the deltoid and then the bicep. It kind of detracts from the simplicity of anime. Like at the bottom, the fingers like that. The shadows that you add, it's not very dark or deep. I also want to give advice on shading the cleavage, the chest, because I know a lot of people get it wrong. They make like this whole part dark, you know, which shouldn't be the case. Really, it's just the two parts right here that should be shaded, you know, the parts that are touching. There's something called ambient occlusion. It's that other things affect each other's shadow. So for example, if it's coming from the top left, it looked like this. Because you could see that these two objects are close together, so they start affecting each other. That part where they're most closest becomes darker, because no light could like go in there. So try to think of the body as different shapes. The kneecaps are kind of round, and remember when you shade like round things, the bottom is kind of dark, so half the kneecap is kind of dark. So now, when I start adding in like the lighter parts, I just like to use a called a normal layer. With like anime faces, you don't really need too much for the face. That's one of the rare exceptions. I want to just color the line art. So when you draw, you become more observant. You observe the things that you want to include and to make your drawings more appealing. So now it's time to color our other character. This time, instead of the simple method, it's a little bit more detailed. For this one, I'm gonna highlight the muscles a little bit more. Remember, you know, before you start drawing super stylized designs, it's good to know the basics. And really just like have fun exploring, you know, seeing what works, what designs are appealing. Make it appealing, not just some flat color. So that's why your art teacher tells you to learn realistic, you know, because once you know realistic, it really does open up the whole world for you. Because before you start breaking rules, it's more fun to know what rules you could break. Join a virtual art class to learn live from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice. If you learned something new, please like and share this video with a fellow art nerd. If you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe. Here's a couple other videos you could check out next.